everybody, and welcome back to Showverse. My name is Haley Morales, and today we are talking about Wonder Woman 1984. If you're wondering, I did review the first Wonder Woman. You can find that back on the channel. It was before we went on our break, so I don't know how far back it is, but it's back there. It's there. If you're curious on what my thoughts were on the first movie with Gal Gadot, obviously. But let's talk about this one. I was super excited for this movie. I liked the 80s vibe. The posters looked so goddamn cool. I thought this was gonna be so good. And then I watched it, but we'll get to that. So we start on like some kind of triathlon Olympic run thing on Themyscira, with Diana being little, like she was at the beginning of the first Wonder Woman movie. It's the same actress. And she's participating with the elite of Themyscira. I saw some people saying online that this is supposed to be placed after she's been allowed to train with her, like the general. But in Wonder Woman, the first one, she wasn't allowed to train until she was like teenager, and like a different actress was portraying her in that particular scene. So I don't know why people say that. This is definitely, they're letting Diana participate when she's not supposed to be under any kind of training. So this is, I guess, what they expect her like natural ability to be. Either that or they're trying to retcon the timeline from the first movie. I do know. I mean, this could be absolutely like after the general's been secretly training. That could have started before now, but her mom wouldn't have known about that, so I don't know why she's in this competition, but she does great. She's like beating everybody until her horse, she falls off her horse, and her horse runs off, and she's like, damn it. And she sees a slide. It's supposed to be just like a rut in the ground, but it's just a slide. Not a very well hidden slide. And she decides to just take that down in order to like catch up with where the horses would be. And as you're doing this thing with, they had climbing, they had swimming and all that stuff. At the end of each leg in event, you're supposed to shoot an arrow or throw a thing between in a circle that would pop your smoke, and your flag would change. Like, they would see the smoke and they would change your flag back at the arena, which, yeah, it has the similar problems to, like, people pointed out in Goblet of Fire Harry Potter movie, where like a lot of the things that you're watching is just, you're sitting in the stands, you get to watch the beginning part of it, and then everybody disappears for like half an hour, and then they come back and you get to watch the last bit. That's basically what all the women of Themyscira were doing. They were just sitting, waiting. A flag would occasionally drop, and that's about it. It was a great test of strength and everything. It's just not a good spectator sport. Well, she goes down this slide, and she ends up missing some one of the circles. Her flag doesn't go any farther, whereas everyone else's does. Which, I saw a lot of people talking about how Diana should have been able to like finish the race because she still got there. She just chose a different way. But she did miss some of the points that you had to hit. Like, she didn't follow the path. So like, I understand why they stop her, because Diana meets back up with where they are. And she's about to win. She's about to throw her javelin into the final circle, and she would be the winner. And the general, like, scoops her up, basically. Doesn't let her actually throw her javelin, and she's very upset, which is understandable. She's very young at this point. And she's upset. She says it's not fair that she, won. And her general friend says that she cheated, and she lied, and she's not ready to win. And there's no shame in that. It's just, you're not ready yet. Which initially when I was watching this, I was like, what? Because it just, that lesson, I think it is a good one. It just didn't fully feel like it lined up until I like watched the scene back and saw that there were more like circles that she had to put arrows through farther down that she didn't do. So yeah, no, she cheated. She didn't follow the path. There was like markers you had to hit, and she did not hit the last few markers. So, but this is also a strange lesson to put onto this movie. After you watch the rest of it, you're like, that, I don't know how well that works, because they say no true hero can come from lies, but it also, at this point in her life, the general, the mom, literally every woman on the Themyscira is lying to Wonder Woman and Diana about like who she is and what she is and where exactly she comes from. So a true hero who is coming from all lies, there's lies everywhere, bathing in lies. It's a little confusing. Like, she doesn't know why she's special and like why she's able to do all these things, why she's the only kid on the island. She knows that her mom molded her from clay and that Zeus gave her life, but that's not exactly, they're still lying to her while also telling her not to lie, and we're just supposed to take that lesson at face value for the rest of this movie and apply it to everything we're seeing when it doesn't perfectly apply. But maybe I'm just too young. Maybe I haven't learned that particular life lesson yet in order to understand this part. But it seemed a little hypocritical of the general to say that when, like, her whole life they're lying to her and everything. But yeah, whatever. We skipped to 1984. We're at a mall, peak 80s mall. We've got freaking flashy storefronts. There's people fast walking in unitards and leg warmers. Peak 80s out here. And we see a jewelry store, which is completely empty, except for the owner of the person running the store and a bunch of robbers. And they're robbing this jewelry store while everyone else is like outside. Like, they don't. It's a fully closed like storefront one, and it also kind of doesn't fit the look of the rest of the building. Like, it looks really old. I don't know. It doesn't really fit the vibe. It could still be accurate. It just doesn't. I don't know. I expect there to be a little bit brighter, and it was a lot of brown, a lot of wood toned, but they're robbing a jewelry store. And because it's also the 80s, this mall is popping. There's people everywhere. So when they leave, they try to split up and like just try to blend into crowds and stuff. And one guy just fails at it, and through one terrible mistake at another, he's brandishing his gun now, and he's threatening people. He at one point holds a little girl over the side of, like, because it's a 2-story mall, he's like over the balcony, and even his like robber buddies are like, no, stop, put her down, what are you doing? And I cannot figure out why this man escalated it to this point. I have tried. I've rewatched the scene. I don't understand what the fuck led him to this. But he's holding a child. And Diana swoops in her Wonder Woman outfit. And she not only takes down these bad guys, you know, she saves a little girl, she takes them down. She's also knocking out all the cameras in the whole place, because as we know from the first, the Justice League and Batman v Superman or whatever, wherever we first met Wonder Woman, Bruce Wayne didn't really know about her. Oh, we also know this from like the first Wonder Woman, because we see, Bruce sends her that photo of her and the guys in that city that they saved in World War I, and is like, you'll have to tell me the story one day. And I remember from the Justice League and stuff that, not from Justice League, but I think from Batman v Superman, that they didn't really know who, oh yeah, they didn't know who Wonder Woman was at all. Both Batman and Superman had no idea. And so that means she goes through all this time without letting anyone know who, like, this is supposed to explain away why there's no, like, footage of her. So she's taking out all these cameras, and this is supposed to explain why Bruce Wayne had no evidence of her existence before she showed up in Batman v Superman. But you expect those to be, like, recording. Like, even now, a mall keeps tapes for a month after they're recorded. Like, they're continuously recording. Maybe they probably couldn't keep them for that long back in the 80s, because that's a lot of VHS tapes. But she was for sure recorded. Add in just the general, as the general public got more and more technology in our hands, we all have become recorded more and more. I just doubt that she's never been recorded before, like they try to suggest in Batman v Superman and in this one. But apparently she is successful. I don't know. She did it. She's also able to throw around these bad guys in exactly the way she needs to, so that she doesn't kill them, but does beat them all kinds up and have them land on a police car in the 80s. Back when they were real metal. And they are alive still. But she's Wonder Woman. She's also had all this time to figure out exactly how much strength she needs when dealing with normal humans. So, you know what? She's just that cool. Just girl boss, you know? So I'll accept that. That's fine. She goes and saves all this stuff and turns the guys in, and now, like, the FBI are in on this because apparently the guys were stealing, like, some illegal jewelry trading that was happening, and, like, there's some unidentified things that they take to the Smithsonian to figure out how, like, who would have bought this, what is it, where it comes from and stuff, so they can figure out who would have bought it. We also meet this oil baron that's not doing so well. All his wells are dry. He's losing investors. He was the one trying to smuggle the jewel through the store, because he wants it for its mystical properties that we see in full display later on in this movie. But he is also, like, known locally for, like, doing a bunch of commercials and stuff. So he uses that local celebrity-ish status to get a tour of the Smithsonian under the guise of a very large donation. And the FBI has already brought the jewel to the Smithsonian. Luckily, the jewel doesn't get, like, put in under Diana's care, because that would be way too convenient. They do add one more character. They add Barbara, who she's the one that the jewel actually is in the place of. She's the one studying it. And we meet Barbara around the same time, that she's very forgotten. People don't think of her too much. Somebody who hired her doesn't recognize her after she's already been working there for 2 weeks. It's like, that's how forgettable she's supposed to be. But she just met Diana. She thinks she's so cool and smart and sophisticated. And also, I do want to, just talking so much about the Smithsonian. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm doing a lot of run-on sentences. This movie just gets to me, and I just feel like I need to get all of it out right away, so that just get it to you. But thinking about the Smithsonian, she's still working there in Batman v Superman and during, like, the Justice League and stuff. But if she's also working there in the 80s, and she looks exactly the same in the 80s as she does in, like, 2015 or whenever the heck the Justice League takes place. How is she getting away with that? Because it's not like she's working somewhere else, not like moving around every couple years like most like eternal beings do in stories. Whether it's like a vampire or some kind of aliens or fae or something. Anything where they don't age, they move around because people will be like, yo, it's been 30 years and you look the exact same. What's going on? In fact, in some ways, you almost look younger in comparison to like everyone around you who has been aging now. So how has she still worked at the Smithsonian this whole time? And she's got like a corner office. Like she's pretty decently high up at the Smithsonian in this point in the 80s. So how long has she been working there? And then how long is she, like, how are you getting away with that, Diana? Without anybody posing some questions, getting any kind of... Doesn't the Smithsonian, like, take pictures of the people that work there? So there's evidence of you not aging, like, in their system? I don't know, my low-level day job where, like, we have to have some level of security. We all have pictures, and when we get new badges, we have to take new pictures, and they still have our old pictures in the, like, I don't know. I guess she's erasing them, or I don't know what's happening. Somehow she's not getting discovered, even though she's still working at the same place and of a pretty high security job without anybody noticing. Sure, that's fine. Anyway, Barbara has this jewel. Barbara's slightly confused because this jewel is not very expensive. It's relatively worthless. Like, it's probably just worth its weight. Not really its weight in gold or anything like that. Just like it's worth, I don't know, it's like a really pretty paperweight. It's not a special jewel. And it's not like finely cut. It's still pretty natural looking. With part of it still being slightly brown and like potentially still in some of the stone. So she's confused as to like what's important about it. So she's going into a deeper dive. So so she's a little curious about this jewel. Barbara is. Diana also works in this section and just recently met Barbara and is starting to become kind of friends with her when the oil baron comes in on his tour. And he tries to smoosh it up with both of these ladies because he can see the jewel that he wants sitting in front of them. And Diana doesn't give a shit. She's like, I don't own a TV, so I don't know your commercial spot or whatever. Literally doesn't care. Barbara fawning over him because he's a local celebrity and he's very conventionally attractive. So obviously she gets a little nervous, a little flustered around him. And he's showing her more attention than anyone in this office has before today. And Diana talking to her because he wants what she's in charge of. And so he asks her to join her at a, like fundraisers dinner thing, like a fundraisers party that the Smithsonian puts on. Diana's like, I don't usually go to those, so I won't be going. But Barbara is going to meet up with him there. He wants like a special tour, even more special than a donator's tour, which the fact that he's even in the back where they are is already special, but he wants more special because he wants the jewel. And he sees Barbara and he's like, there's my in. This woman can be so easily manipulated. She's already putty in my hands, and literally all I have done is like introduce myself specifically to her as well as the person next to her and like said sentences at her. So he leaves. I'm pretty sure he's pretty content and thinks his plan is going to work out. Barbara and Diana go to lunch, and they do this thing where they just cut into the scene, and Diana just is laughing and goes, "You're so funny." And we don't even get to hear the joke. It's not even one of those situations where you hear the punchline of the joke and then people laugh and they're like, ha, "That's so funny." And you're leaving the audience wondering, what was the setup? It's literally just laughter. "You're so funny." And they have Christian Wiig, who is an amazing comedian, was on SNL for years, is known for being funny. And they just cut into a scene with Gal Gadot going, "You're so funny." What? If you didn't feel confident enough to write a joke for Christian Wiig, just have Christian Wiig write a joke for you. She easily could have improv'd a joke for that section. It doesn't even need to be all that good. It just needs to be good enough for Diana, who barely interacts with people. She doesn't really go out with any friends. She pretty much just goes straight home at the end of the day. She eats alone at most restaurants. Because we see her going through her routine, and it's very singular and by herself. That doesn't even need to be the best joke, because Diana's also just going to be nice and is going to laugh. If it's like, okay, funny, she's going to laugh. Or, again, you have Christian Wiig. Her plus your writers can write a good joke that you could put. You don't need to tell me your character is funny. Show me that their character is funny and that she has other attributes that she should be focusing on. Because that's really the point of this whole scene, is just like, here's this person who's very funny and very sweet and very kind, has a lot of humanity in her because it's important for later. But she just wants to be pretty, and she feels let down because she's a little socially awkward and she's not exactly conventionally pretty. But it's also Christian Wiig, so she kind of is, but maybe not the most conventionally pretty, but she's definitely pretty. And like, but whatever, they put her in frizzy hair and 80s glasses. So what? Her and Diana are talking. They're just going over stuff. And I think they could have used another part of this conversation that a lot of people have issues with is the fact that they're just talking about something, and then Christian Wiig's character, Barbara, switches to, "Have you ever been in love?" kind of out of nowhere. It feels very clunky. It's not a very natural way to progress the conversation. But you could have written that into her character as being a little socially awkward and doesn't fully know how to read the situation and will jump to a different topic out of nowhere. That happens with people with ADHD or autism or any other type of like way of not fully being able to read social situations. But instead of writing it in a way that you could make those kind of jumps without seeming super clunky, they just didn't do that and left it so it just looks like they don't know how to write, rather than the character doesn't know how to read a situation, which you could easily do, because that would make more sense as to why they're not making it in the social world of their work or outside of, romantically or anything like that. You could, have a little bit more of an explanation, and they might have been trying to do that, but they didn't do it right. So it just feels clunky, like the writers don't know how to write a conversation, instead of clunky because a character doesn't know how to read a conversation, which I think could have been really good. And a good metaphor at the end for like, you go back to who you are, which would include this, because then that would be a really nice thing to hear, that people will still like you for those that have trouble reading social situations. People who, jump a little bit around, being like, that's nothing wrong with you, just because these people are dicks. You just gotta find someone like Diana's being right now, just a good friend who is willing to spend more than 2 minutes in a conversation with you. Because most of the people that they're shown at the beginning of this movie are just dicks who, if you're not interesting in 2 minutes without either conventionally attractive or interesting in less than 2 minutes, they don't want to talk to you. Because most of the people in this movie are fucking assholes. And that could have been a cool storyline. But instead, they just wrote it like they don't know how to write a conversation. And so we learn, Barbara asks Diana about love and if she's ever been in love. Diana says once, and, you know, wish he could come back. He was a pilot, but things, you know, didn't work out. She's trying to keep it vague, because obviously she can't be like, yeah, he died in World War I from the god Ares trying to put a bomb on it. Yeah, that's a little too complicated. I understand. And Barbara's like, I fall in love all the time and stuff like that. I think Kristen Wiig is putting so much of her own charisma into this character, because she's very good at playing awkward but kind of lovable characters. Again, how did you fuck up Barbara so badly when you had Kristen Wiig playing this character? And I think this part of the conversation is kind of endearing. She's like, oh, I fall in love all the time and stuff. Like, it could have been more cute, but they actually frame and cut it in a way that it's very awkward. And I just wish somebody better could have had this storyline, this premise, or even just the raw footage. It probably could have been edited in a way that made it be more natural and stuff. But no, I don't know who exactly did this. But somebody made this whole film just on the wrong side of awkward. Ooh, it was very frustrating to watch, especially in times like this conversation where there was multiple, like, examples of how they're fucking up in one small scene. We see Diana and Kristen Wiig, they go back to the office, and I can't remember exactly when this happens. At some point, Diana's holding the crystal, and she says, somebody brings up wishes and stuff, and Diana wishes for Steve again. I'm pretty sure she does this in her head, because I can't remember a specific scene of that happening. But I think it's an internal wish. But I do know, this is towards the end of the day, when most people have gone home, Barbara is holding the jewel, because she's alone in her office, which is a pretty big office. Pretty nice. And she wishes to be more like Diana, because Diana has a lot of natural charisma just from the way her face is, you know, like, people are just more likely to listen to her and to go up and talk to her and be nice to her. One thing I do like that they show in this movie is how often women will get just things said to them. It's a little weird that, like, at one point they do show Barbara about to be sexually harassed and sexually assaulted. She's being sexually harassed. She's about to be sexually assaulted in a park before Diana shows up. Like, I was surprised they showed that. But I like how in this movie, a lot of the time, Diana's just literally trying to live a basic life and is constantly getting approached by people at work. People are always saying something to her, trying to start a conversation, and she's just trying to do her work. She ends up going to the fundraiser party because earlier that day, she sees the party's that night, and she gets, like, nervous about the oil baron or something. She lifts, there's like this almost like a straw bed in the box that the jewel is in. And inside is the receipt. It has the oil baron's name on it. So this is suggesting that the FBI seized all this illegal jewelry stuff, all these illegal jewels, didn't take them all the way out and take the filling out of their boxes. Went, wonder who bought these? We can't get it from the guy. He's keeping his mouth shut. We're going to take him to the Smithsonian, and they're going to figure it out. They'll figure out, like, what these jewels are all about. Without once searching the entirety of the boxes. And no one else does. Until Diana randomly goes, I'm going to pick up the straw. And oh, there's a piece of paper. It has his name. Why? There's other ways. You could have had her figure out that he was the one to buy the jewel. Either way, she now knows that he was the one trying to buy this jewel. I think the reason they talked about wishes is because Barbara finds out that this particular jewel is linked to like a legend that it grants wishes, which is actually what it does. Grants one wish to anybody who holds it. And it's known for like taking down societies because people get too greedy and every wish comes with some type of, either it's too literal, so you don't get really what you wanted, or there's some kind of drawback. And Diana decides to go to the fundraising party in order to talk to Barbara and hopefully get between her and the oil baron dude before they could meet up and he can manipulate her. And when she's walking into the party, literally every other guy she walked past is like, hey. And she's like, yeah. She's literally just trying to walk through a party. Now, don't get me wrong. She looks stunning. Leave her alone. Why are you bugging her? And this can seem almost like parody with the amount that it's happening, that literally every single guy is like shooting their shot. What's up? But I've also literally seen it in real life. This might be slightly exaggerated because it's a work event, so I don't know why people are this ready to shoot their shot at a work event, but sometimes that's the only place people can find. So, I do like that they showed that like how annoying it can be to be even slightly conventionally attractive in, especially back then when it wasn't seen, like people didn't think it was annoying to women, they just did it because they didn't really think about it. I want to also clarify, I'm not saying this happens to me, I'm saying I've seen it. There's a difference. I don't go out. So I liked that they showed that. I'm sad how many people on the internet were like, oh my god, why do they do that? Makes every single guy look like a fucking asshole. They're also in DC, which is full of assholes, so I don't know what they were expecting. I think it's just probably just an accurate portrayal of what DC was like in the 80s, and probably still is. It's DC. Power-hungry people, all concentrated in one space. And they're at the Smithsonian, too. Peak smoozing territory. Of course everyone there is going to be a fucking asshole. Anyway, she's there. And a man tries to stop and talk. And she's like, I don't want... She's like just trying to walk through. And he keeps stopping her. And he says something about wanting to see her again. He says something that makes her realize it's Steve. And I remember not even fully recognizing the line until like I was like, oh yeah, like I just needed a half-second pause. So I don't know, it didn't feel like a super memorable line that they gave him to try to spark that this is Steve, because the jewel did indeed bring Steve Trevor back from the dead, but not in his own body. He's possessing some random man, which in the credits is just called Handsome Man. We don't see the Handsome Man a lot. For the most part, it is Chris Pine doing all the acting. There's occasional shots where they remind you that this is not actually Chris Pine's body. But we see Steve is back, and now Diana's trying to figure out what the fuck. And while she's doing that, Barbara and Maxwell, sorry, that's what his name is. I keep calling him the oil baron. His name is Maxwell. Maxwell Lord, I'm pretty sure. Maxwell and Barbara meet up, and they head up to her office where they start to like make out a little bit, and then he sneaks the jewel, this giant jewel, like it's like as big as this water bottle, and he just palms it and then skedaddles right out. Barbara doesn't notice at all that the jewel that was in the middle of her desk is gone now. Again, it's like this big. it's just gone now. She doesn't notice. I guess maybe she had a little too much to drink. I don't know why she didn't see that it was gone, but she didn't. I don't know. Maxwell has the jewel now. There you go. We see Steve and Diana walking around outside. She seems to be catching him up on what he's missed, and he's like, wow, this is amazing. Takes him back to her apartment, and Steve sees all the memorabilia from back in World War I that Diana still has. Because it's not just Steve's stuff, which she does have a little shelf that has like his watch on it and some stuff. But she also has wedding pictures from when the guys got married after the war and she was there. I'm pretty sure there's like school or like an orphanage picture thing that she did in the name of somebody. I'm not sure if it was actually in Steve's name or one of the other guys'. I don't remember. But there was definitely like stuff where it seems she lived out the rest of the guys' life from the first movie with them before, or at least part of their lives. I don't know how long, because they don't specify. They just show little quick things. And Steve is noticing she's still living in the past. She's not really wanting to give up that time that they shared and that she spent with those guys. And this is where the uncomfortable bit is going to have to happen. So she and Steve, they do have a romantic evening. Now, this is not Steve's body. We don't know what's happened to the man that he's possessing. At the end of the movie, we see him, and he doesn't recognize Diana, so he must not remember this. But it is a weird decision to have your hero have sex with a person's body who is not conscious of this decision that the consciousness possessing them and your hero has made for them. It's gross, it's uncomfortable, and they didn't have to do it. They didn't have to show this. They did not have to show the fact that they had a romantic evening, that they had sex, and they don't like shy away from, like, they're in bed naked, they're doing the comforters at their chest. Like, you could have just not done that. You could have simply, because this movie doesn't take place over like a long amount of time, they could have just not, and I don't know why they did. It was weird. It's those weird semi-rapey vibes that a lot of 80s movies actually have. So it's, I guess they were really striving for that 80s nostalgia. But it was uncomfortable. I personally was not a fan. After this, she asks, where he woke up and stuff. And they actually end up going to his house the next morning and pick out clothes for the dude. Which they show Diana dresses him up, and he's like, who would wear this? What are you talking about? And then at the end of the movie, like I mentioned before, she meets the guy, and he's wearing the exact outfit that she picked out for him. Which is interesting, because if he dresses like that normally, but then the other stuff he also had in his closet, because Steve has a trying on clothes montage, like they did in the first Wonder Woman with Diana and her disguise, which is cute. I liked the parallel. But also, if that guy normally wears the exact thing Diana picks out, then why did he have so many tracksuits and bright fanny packs and like a lot of bright and loud clothing? And then also he wears like a gray jacket with a big scarf and stuff. Like, what is why those don't seem to like make sense in the same wardrobe. Or they would if you leaned more towards the louder clothes and then she was just pulling together the smaller pieces that you would wear with, like, you wear a loud top, so you have to have like regular jeans or something. It's not like she was pulling together that. He literally wears it at the end. So where are all these louder pieces coming from? that just felt really weird. Like, they should have made this sequence in a store, not this guy's house, if they wanted to make these jokes. But whatever. He finds like a suit, like a sweatsuit kind of thing to wear. Something that's not too dressed down, but not too dressed up. And Diana continues to show him around the, modern DC with art exhibits and people, and they go see the Smithsonian's plane and aerospace sections, which obviously he's so geeked about, which, yeah, a freaking amazing. All this is happening. Maxwell Lord, when he has this jewel, he takes it back to his office and he says, "I wish I were you." And the jewel disintegrates and the power goes into him. And so now if you touch Maxwell and you say, "I wish I had $1 million," you would get $1 million. Like you would if you were touching the jewel to do that. I am curious as to why the jewel took it this way and didn't just turn him into a jewel. Why are there not just two jewels, one sitting on the desk and one sitting like on the floor or in the seat after he says this? That's how I would expect like a genie type, because a lot of this is supposed to be the way genies or jinns are portrayed in stories, where they take it overly literal or there's a bad side effect, because it's supposed to teach you that, you shouldn't just be wishing for your problems away. They take work and so whatever. Why did they make it so that he is now the jewel? Why is he not just an inanimate object? That feels more correct than him just having the powers of the jewel now, and the jewel no longer existing. Maybe the jewel saw the potential chaos, but I think if there were two jewels, that's a lot of chaos that could have come as well. So I don't know, but he becomes the jewel. He has the powers, and he starts having people make wishes for him. Like, he asks one of his employees, "Don't you wish I had a big break right now? Or like those wells weren't dry?" And he like touches it. It's like, "Yes, I wish the wells weren't dry. The wells aren't dry anymore. Don't you wish we had more investors? The investors are pouring in. They can't hire people fast enough. Don't you wish we had more help? Yeah, I wish we had more help." Suddenly people who were here for job interviews for different places keep making their way into their office and their floor. "You're hired. Just get on the phones." He continues until he's big. He has the dude who took his time slot on the local TV come in, and he's like, "Don't you wish that this thing was happening, but I got your old time slot?" Like, he starts figuring out how to make the bad side effect, or the way that he can manipulate it, so that even though they get what they want, their like reactionary energy is in some way beneficial to him. But through the movie, we can also see him deteriorating like physically. Like, he looks like he hasn't slept at all. He just starts looking kind of sick, like it's killing him to make this many wishes. And we don't know if that's directly like just the energy it takes to do the wishes, or if it's the energy that it takes to manipulate that reactionary response. But he starts using it to propel himself forward. And sometimes I think he's just partially like, "I'll just answer your wishes for you and you can pay me money," kind of thing, because people start lining up, and one person says that they want a Porsche, and the Porsche breed shows up. Someone mentions they want a small farm, and it's farm animals are literally outside, and they meant like a property that they could put animals on. Not necessarily the animals themselves in the middle of the Smithsonian, or the middle of DC. And this starts getting, wild enough that it catches Diana's attention. She and Steve look into more of the jewel. They find out how it has taken down other civilizations because the greed got too much, and the reactionary responses of these things are just going down. While this is happening, everyone has forgotten about Barbara. And Barbara initially starts just getting more attention. She's, standing up a little straighter. She's able to walk in heels a little bit better. People are just noticing her more, and she's becoming a little bit of like the center of the office. People are talking to her. They're talking about her. One day she opens her fridge and the entire door comes off because she wished that she was like Diana. So she's getting slowly the powers of Wonder Woman right here, right now. Which is a cool way to discover like hero's powers. I like that this was happening this way. But while she's becoming more center of attention, she's caring less and less about people around her. They show her happening to walk past the guy who almost sexually assaulted her in the park, and he catcalls her again, and she fights back. She's like hitting him and stuff, but she won't stop. Like, he's fully down, and she keeps hitting him. And at one point, she hits him into a parking lot, and in this parking lot is a homeless guy that she had earlier in the movie been nice to. And now he's looking at her like he's scared of her and he's confused, and it's supposed to show that she's losing her humanity as she becomes stronger, as a way to, like, that's her negative side effect, is that she's losing her humanity, which is a little weird. I guess are they trying to say Diana doesn't have humanity, or are they just saying that you're just losing it because that was your biggest strength and now you're getting these new strengths? I don't know. It's an interesting take for sure. But it isn't until she finds out that Diana is trying to reverse the jewel stuff. She gets nervous that her power is going to go away, and she actually ends up trying to protect Maxwell Lord and protect and like fight against Wonder Woman. And at this point, she's chosen like an animal print facade, to show she's bold and daring and different, and she's animalistic now, which Kristen Wiig, I think, looks very good in, by the way. She just really owns the look that they gave her. Part of it feels a little off. Like something about it just doesn't seem quite right, and I literally cannot place it. I was writing out my notes for this, and I could not place what was off about this. I think they might be trying too hard and like ham-fisting this message, particularly for Barbara, and maybe that's why it feels so off. Her whole character feels so clunky. It's so clunky. Like, they had a good outline for what they wanted, and they just didn't fully finish sanding it down and fine-tuning it. They just kind of left it and, like, made Kristen Wiig do the best she could, which I believe she does, but I don't know. It was a choice for sure. So now, Maxwell Lord is becoming a million bajillionaire from all of this oil. He's granting people's wishes and getting money from that. He's becoming more and more of a problem. At one point, Diana's like, I don't kill anybody and everything. And at one point, they go visit the wells that Maxwell Lord has, because that's where he is. So they're in like a Middle Eastern country. She's being very rough with the bad guy she's fighting. She's also slowly losing her powers. So she shouldn't be as good in that fight as she is. But they're like, yeah, she's losing her powers, but she can still run faster than cars and do big jumps and stuff. Maybe the only difference between like this fight scene and other ones is that in other fight scenes, they take a second to show that the person is still alive after she whips them around. And they just didn't do that as much in this fight in the Middle East. So it seemed like, yeah, we don't kill any people when they're white, and then who cares when they're a Middle Eastern person, which is uncomfortable. Why are you doing, why? You already set up like a formula of like, we see this person, we see Diana punch them around and stuff, and then we see them be alive. And then you come here and you don't bother with that see them be alive bit. Why? You could have. Wouldn't have really added any runtime either. Not really. Because there was a few establishing shots that like could have taken, like there wasn't, or if it did, it would have added like a couple seconds. I don't know. This movie was like, you like the 80s? Get ready for Middle Eastern propaganda. Get ready for sexual and harassment of women. Get ready for clunky dialogue. You want some 80s? Here's some 80s. It's so... I don't think they understand which part of the 80s nostalgia the audience actually wants. Because they were just throwing it all at us. I don't even need to talk about the Middle Eastern part that much, because that's how inconsequential most of it was to the movie. Besides the fact that, like, he got the prince to wish that their old territory was walled off, and then it put a wall through the middle of the city, which is bad and stuff. And then he also, as his repercussion, he ended up getting he got somebody to wish. Somehow he ended up with that prince's power, like, and he has control over his bodyguards and stuff now. And now that prince is like in trouble. Like, somehow people know that he is the one who wished for this wall and that it showed up. I don't know how. Or at least I don't remember how, because I was so frustrated with the movie at this point that I don't fully have... I think that's the only real important part, is that Maxwell Lord now has a bunch of bodyguards. He's going to talk to the president. Him and Cheetah meet up there. Cheetah, Kristen Wiig's character, Barbara. She protects Maxwell from Diana, who was able to get into the White House because one of the guys that flirted with her at the beginning of the movie was like, I just started my new job at the White House. And so now he got her in. Her and Steve. And because she's losing her powers, she loses the fight with Barbara. Maxwell and Barbara get away. They start talking and stuff on their private jet that they're using to get to somewhere where there's a weapon that basically sends out like satellites or something, and it rains down micro bots, I think, and it touches everything. In the rules of the jewels, you have to touch it. So they take it as if Maxwell talks through this thing, it's like is like in the space, it's like he's touching everywhere, so he's trying to get there so he can get all of the wishes of the entire world all at once to gain all the power. I don't fully understand how this machine works, and I really don't understand how it works with the rules of the jewel, but it does, I guess. Diana ends up having to give up Steve in order to catch up to them, and she kisses him and then like turns around, and I really like the way that she like kisses him and then just turns. She doesn't even fully open her eyes. She doesn't really say goodbye, and you can hear him saying, you know, I'm proud of you or whatever, as she's running away. And she starts running and jumping really far, and then she develops flight, which some people were upset about. But earlier in the movie, they talked to get to the Middle East. Steve and Diana stole a plane from the Aerospace Museum, which, weird. Why would they have gas in those? Why are they ready to go? They definitely don't have enough gas to get all the way to the Middle East, but and she talks about how she's been developing her new powers, and she is trying to work on making like a force field or like the ability for things to go invisible. I wish they had shown her trying this out at the beginning of the movie, like when we first saw her in this timeline. instead of just being like, yeah, I tried it with a cup. I never found it, which is a dumb joke. Like, it's still invisible. That's why she never, but that's not funny. It's not good, right? But in the heat of the moment, she's able to completely erase the plane. It makes it all invisible. So she goes from a cup that she couldn't even turn back to the whole plane, which is frustrating, but it does show that she has sudden leaps in her powers abilities, which in this moment when she's doing her big jumps, which we've seen her do big jumps before, she is thinking about Steve and saying goodbye to him. And during that plane ride, she also mentioned how anytime she flies, she thinks of Steve. She can't help but think of him when she flies. She's doing these big jumps. She's thinking about Steve. It makes sense that if she has already proven to do massive leaps in power ability, that her big jumps would turn into flight in this moment. So even though it's still bad and not a great way to introduce a new power or like power up your hero, it makes sense internally, which is annoying but true. So I can't be as mad about this jump to fly thing when we've already established that she went from being able to invisible a cup and never be able to show it back again to invisible an entire plane and it come back as well. So because internally it makes sense. It's just frustrating. But she learns to fly and she flies now. She makes it to the place where Barbara and Maxwell Lord are. And Maxwell starts his thing. He's talking to people around the world and he's like, I can grant any of your wishes. You just need to think about it and you wish and you get one wish each and stuff. And he's directing the repercussions to affect Barbara in a way that she becomes more agile. She becomes stronger. She is covered in cat fur. And I'm not fully sure. Like, I understand. Because some people were like, how did Barbara get a second wish? It's not that she got a second wish. It's that he's controlling the negative impact of a wish to benefit her. But it's confusing to me exactly how it's done. It's just kind of hand-waved. A lot of things in this movie are hand-waved. You're just supposed to accept it in more than a typical movie would. Diana gets there. At one point, her and Steve were in her house, and she had this armor that is apparently from someone from Themyscira had to be left behind when they were all escaping from being slaves of men way back when. Someone stayed to hold them off, and they had this armor. And when Diana came to live here back in World War I, she ended up going out and trying to find her and finds the armor, but not the woman. And so now Diana's wearing this armor that she got from then. And she's in these, it's got cool wings that work as shields and stuff. And she's starting to fight Cheetah, Barbara, and she's like winning. And then she takes the wings off the armor for some reason. And I kind of understand because it was starting to get like damaged, but I think it could have lasted longer. Her and Barbara have a weird fight. Barbara ends up in the water. Diana ends up in the room that she needed to be. And now Maxwell Lord is making more and more impassioned requests for responses. He's taking his microphone all the way over, like in the direct line of this weapon. Again, I don't fully understand how this works, and the movie also doesn't really want you to. It's another hand wave moment. So I keep looking down because I'm like searching for the answers in my desk. They're not there, but I'll try. And somehow everyone can also hear Diana when she's in this space. We do flash to like what people are wishing for. You see people literally, you see somebody wish that his wife isn't dying of cancer, but But you also see two people who are in a fight, and one of them goes, I wish you were dead, and then they die. And he's like, this was my doing. And eventually Diana is like, hey, you don't want to lose your humanity. That's what Barbara lost. And look at you, Maxwell, you're dying, you're losing yourself, and you can't take the easy way out. You can't cheat life with these wishes, and they're all lies and stuff, like trying to bring that initial lesson back. It doesn't fully fit. It's ill-fitting metaphor, but that make it work. She's got her whip around his leg, and instead of making him like tell the truth, she's using it to channel her like through the machine, I think. And she gets everyone to renounce their wishes, which I don't know how. I understand like the dude they showed that killed this random like shop worker that he was yelling at. But, like, the dude who's like, I wish my wife didn't have cancer. How the fuck is he? Yeah, he just renounces his wish. Sure. And then Maxwell renounces his wish, which I was pretty sure you had to renounce kind of, like, in order. And then also this kind of made it look like that's not the case. Unless everybody did renounce. Or if it's because Maxwell renounced his wish and none of the other people got their wishes. Because that would make sense. But instead, for some reason, everyone has to renounce their wish. Which everyone does. It's definitely not in order because Diana was able to renounce her wish and she was like one of the first people to do it. I don't know. It was weird. I don't know why everyone had to renounce their wishes. But everyone renounces their wish and Diana goes back into regular life. Barbara's sad and I think probably in jail. Maxwell somehow gets to leave, and he has a son, which he's been like keeping around and stuff, but also ignoring most of the movie. And he goes to find him on a random lawn. Wasn't even like, there was no defining things around it. So I don't know where the fuck this was. A random lawn. He comes down on a helicopter and he jumps out, and him and his son run across and they hug and stuff. I assume right before the cops rain down on him to put him in jail. Because he better be arrested? He committed terrorism? He did a terrorism? But they show everyone going back, and Diana's like appreciating her life again. And she sees the handsome man, and he's like, hey, and we get a drink sometime? And she's like, sure. This movie hurts me. Especially this bit. It just, the end is so hand-waved. It's aggressively hand-waved. But everything's fine now. Whatever. And there's an end credits scene where they're in like Paris or some small Italian town, I think. And somebody's bumps into something, and a pole is about to crush a child in a buggy, and a woman stops it like this, like just, psh, and the mom is like, "Whoa, thank you so much," and she puts it back, and she's like, "How were you able to do that?" She's like, "Oh, I've just been doing it a long time, a lot of practice," and I'm pretty sure. And she says, "Oh, what's your name at least?" And she says her name is the woman that Diana was looking for. So I don't know if this means she's coming back into more movies, or if this was just a little one-off, like, oh, look, she is still alive. She didn't die when she was keeping all of men from following the women of the Mascara. But the part that confuses me is that I would assume she was coming back for more. But it was the original actress for Wonder Woman that was playing this character. So it feels more like a cheeky nod to the fact that she's been Wonder Woman for a long time. Which it wouldn't make sense for her to come... It doesn't make as much sense for the actress to come back to do more, but it would make sense for the character to come back to do more. But you obviously can't just switch it out now. So I don't know why. Like, I get it. I know why it was cheeky, like, oh, I've been doing this a long time, and it's the person who originally played Wonder Woman. But because you also actively have Diana being like, I wonder where this woman is. And, like, maybe she could have helped me at one point. Like, she expresses that. And now we know she's alive, but she must not show up again anymore. And she was just there so the armor could exist. So that Diana could get a cool new look for this movie. I don't know. Maybe they don't even have a plan to continue this, really. I'm pretty sure this whole verse is like half getting scrapped, half not. Things are continuing in ways they weren't intended. The DC EU confuses me. But don't worry, guys. I will be slowly uncovering the confusion of this universe as we continue with these reviews. But in this moment, I'm confused. I don't know if this means this character is not coming back because it was just supposed to be a fun little cameo, or if it just means that the original actress of Wonder Woman is going to be coming back as this character. I'm sorry, I cannot remember her name, and I do not care enough to look it up. Like, if she's coming back just as this character, and it'll be kind of fun to see the two Wonder Womans, like, on screen together, because that still could happen, but I doubt she could do as much of the stunt work. There's going to be a lot more, like, I don't know. I don't like this movie. It's very clunky. It brings a lot of 80s values to the forefront. But yeah, how do you feel about the Wonder Woman 1984 movie? Do you like it? Do you think they maybe had some good potential points that do you think they were put accurately? Let me know. Comments down below. And how'd you feel? What did this movie make you feel? This movie just made me feel a little icky and sad. Whereas, like, when I was watching the Justice League, I felt exhausted and frustrated. You know? These are emotions that these movies give me. I'm sorry. I love DC's TV lineup, and their animated movies are top tier. Their EU, their live action is just not great. But I'm gonna keep parsing this for you. We're gonna discover what exactly is going on here next time. Actually, I'm pretty sure the next one is probably gonna be continuation of the Arrowverse. But the next DCEU movie, let's figure some stuff out. We're gonna go back a ways to the Superman movies, because I haven't actually done those yet. The DCEU, I do want to apologize. I haven't been reviewing in order like I am for the TV shows, and I do apologize for that. It's just at the time I wanted to get this Justice League stuff out because it was timely and it was fun to compare and contrast, considering I'd never watched the first one. Either way, let me know what you think of Wonder Woman 1984 below. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you next time. Bye!
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching.
You can check out our website for all the content we produce.
Clicking all those YouTube buttons makes it so you see more content from myself and the other amazing creators at Kai's Corner Productions. All donations help us produce more stuff like that for you.
See you guys in the next one. Peace.